All right. Well, Kufar Akbar, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Crescent discussion group. We are here every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time here on Blog Talk Radio in the Global Patriot Radio Network. And we're also here every Tuesday evening at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. We run 2 shows a week. And the show is about exactly as the description of the group is called, The Cross and the Crescent. We discuss things about Christianity. We discuss all kinds of topics that deal with Islam. And today, our topic is not necessarily solely an Islamic issue. However, it is a predominantly Islamic issue. So before we get all the hate mail and all the hate accusations you want to come up with, this isn't just an Islamic problem. This is a problem that pre-existed Islam. It did. You're right, but it's most prevalent in the Islamic world today. So that is what we're going to be talking about, and that topic is female genital mutilation. And we're gonna, and I'm just going to warn you right now: if you are squeamish and you feel like you need to do some wudu and ablution, you most definitely will have to do it at the conclusion of the show. Now, I wanted to address Steve because Steve just popped into the chat there. Can you hear me, Steve?
Yeah.
Are you driving around sunny Los Angeles today? You know, it's like 15 degrees here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just want to driving around sunny Los Angeles now, enjoying the weather.
No, I'm laying down. I'm laying down on my my love seat alone with my Sunday afternoon. I did a church service. You know, I started a church, and so
oh wow.
I preach, and then I come home and take a nap. So
then he goes out to get arrested, harassing Muslim women, pounding on their cars.
Then I'll go witnessing,
cleaning up murder scenes or attempted murder scenes. You know, he's a jack of all trades. This one here is.
I know. Every time you turn around, the police are showing up at his table. I don't know if he's like a cop magnet or what he's doing out there. Okay, here's a question.
The lady called.
Yeah. Go ahead.
A lady called. First of all, 2 women came up to me. They were yelling at me about Islam and all this stuff. One's from Afghanistan, I think, and the other is an Arab. And they were yelling at me, and I was responding to them. And then one of them went, and I don't want to say this, you guys. I really don't want to say this, but okay, I'm going to say it, okay? The one that complained about me looked like an eggplant because she had a purple gown and she had a green hijab. Okay, so there, I said it. Okay, but anyway, she went and complained to the police.
You should.
She went and called the police on me and told the police.
You should hand them.
She went and told the police that I was chasing girls. Anyway, she went and complained about me that I was chasing girls in the parking lot and banging on their windows and stuff. All complete lies, man. So the police came out. I had everything on video. The police saw it and said, okay, you know what these guys think? They've been trying to throw me out of here for so long. The other day they came and told me this is Muslim territory. Okay. This corner, because they got all these Muslim stores there. And I said, and so you know what, you guys? It's like that makes me want to stay there the more. And the police came, and the thing they don't realize is in America, we still have freedom to preach the gospel, you know? And it's like, I think they're beginning to understand that now. So.
Yeah, but it's probably not going to affect the way that they treat you or the way that they view you. I mean, it's even, and this is the sad part. When you preach the gospel to somebody and they're able to, actually discern how beautiful it actually is. And then they compare that to the trash that they're fed on a daily basis in the mosque or whatever, reading the Quran or following the Sunnah of Muhammad. I'm sure that they would find that their own belief system is repulsive and that they would want to strike out at anybody that makes them feel that way. That's how I view the reaction that you get most of the time, because when they see that, how could God actually love us so much that he would become one of us and die for the very things that we did against him. So that when you say that, I mean that is it's a stumbling block. It's an offense. You know, all these things that the New Testament teaches us. That is okay. Here's what I wanted to ask you, Steve. All right, okay. I have been bothered by Aladdin this week. He's been sending me Skype messages, and he says that he wants to debate me over on your channel. Are you aware of any of this? Has he mentioned this to you at all?
Yeah, he mentioned to me that he wants to debate everybody on my channel. He's asking everybody to come and debate me, to debate him on my channel. He talked to Anthony Rogers. He talked to, I don't know.
He was afraid to debate me on, and I asked him to take the stand. I mean, we have to make sure he understands what the word debate means, because we had real difficulty with him grasping that when he came on. He asked me, he challenged me to a debate, and I says, okay, I'm going to ask you to defend that the Quran is a clear communication device.
My question is Aladdin, how come you haven't challenged Sam Shimon? How come?
Well, the way I see it.
Well, I think it's because he would kick his ass.
Okay, but okay, so this is why. Okay, so I can say, I'm not a big deal. I'm not all that in a bag of chips and probably small potatoes. So why in the heck is he bothering with me? Why doesn't he go with after, like the Imam Kenny Bomer did? Hey, let's debate David Wood and have my ass handed to me, and then turn around and brag about what a great guy I am. That's probably what he. I think that I would think that would be a more well measured.
Yeah. You know what happens to Aladdin, is that Aladdin, first of all, he had a really great rapport with Anthony Rogers. Anthony Rogers, when he used to come on my program, Aladdin would come. He loves Aladdin. They would just get along great. I don't know what it was. There was some kind of chemistry there that, they were able to talk to each other like nobody could talk to Aladdin before. I mean, it was amazing to see just the relationship they had, and he would come on every time. And so that kind of gave him a high, like, wow, maybe these Christians are not that bad. But then Aladdin went into hiding. And then he went into hiding for like about 10 days or so. And then he, like a little turtle, his head came out. And now he wants to debate everybody on my channel. And I don't know what's going on, man.
I don't either. And I've invited him here, but of course, the only time that I'm on, when we have our show, is it's not the right time for him.
Well,
7 o'clock in the morning's not good for him, and I get it, but
that's the other thing. If he's that great of a debater, he should be able to come in here and just level us all out, right?
I would hope. Yeah, Paul did you're right. I mean, if what he has is the truth, and the message is so overpowering, then he should be able to do it. No problem, and silence all of us. But the fact is that what he'll do is you'll sit there and you'll correct and refute exactly what he says, and then he says, "Okay, will you let me know what's my turn to talk?" And then you'll wait, and you'll continue to refute him, and then he will come up and he'll just pretend that whatever you said doesn't matter, and that's the way he rolls. I've seen it.
Yeah,
do this several times.
And then he'll try to have your video taken down.
Oh,
then he'll try to have your video taken down.
Yeah. Okay, so I was just wondering.
Andy makes a video about you on his channel.
I think he's humorous.
I think he does need attention every now and then.
So if you want a good laugh on Aladdin, you can go to my Rumble channel. I just posted it in the on the comments, and I put a little video up there asking if Aladdin is severely learning disabled. I'm a retired special education teacher, so you'll hear why I asked that question. And if you have any background in special education
I do.
or education as a whole, you may find that interesting.
What's the deal about the special education? Does someone have an IEP?
Well,
Does
I would,
Aladdin have an IEP? Is
I
that
would
what you're
tend to
asking?
believe that I don't know if he came to the UK after high school or before, but if you listen to the way he communicates, you actually think that.
I'm sorry. I gotta have an IEP. If you don't, because if you don't know what, hold on. If you don't know what an IEP is, hold on, let me say, an IEP. An IEP,
individualized education plan,
right? An individual
which is
education
written for
program.
kids to identify learning disabilities, so the teachers. It basically says we're leveling the playing ground to give this guy a chance,
right.
And
we're making certain accommodations for them.
Yes,
right.
that's
so
the hope. It doesn't mean that it's to do the best that we can for that child to learn.
Okay, so my question to Steve is does Steve have an IEP for Aladdin?
So that actually might be an interesting question. I bet you could ask that if you accept a debate for him. You know what you might want to ask? I mean, I bet you could ask it in the video at the beginning. Do you need any accommodations? And if he answers quickly and he gives you them without thinking, that may mean he already has an IEP, because that's something a high school student who had one would actually do without thinking.
That's funny.
And you agree with me, right, Eric? That was something.
Oh yeah, yeah. I absolutely agree. And okay. Now, first off, let's just not make this blanket judgment that we think that kids that have IEPs, there's something wrong. We don't, because there are all kinds of people out there that do have learning disabilities and truly need a plan and accommodations to help them achieve the same that the other kids do. And I never had a problem providing.
I recommended that you go see a medical professional. That's what I did.
I have an IEP, but I don't have that. I want a personal secretary. I want a personal secretary and assistant to do everything for me. But
I had a brother that had that kind of a disability, and unfortunately, at that point in time in our society, there really wasn't anything that could be done for him like they do now. But
see, having an IEP doesn't mean you can't get a doctorate. It doesn't mean you can't get a bachelor's. It doesn't mean you can't get anything. It just means you have a learning disability of some sort. That's all it really means. So
it's just to help you achieve. That's all it's for.
I think that
so I led the honors society for my master's program.
Okay, so if you need an IEP, though, here's the point I'm trying to make. If you need an IEP to engage in apologetics with Christians, then I would suggest that you go do something else, because we're not going to provide you the accommodations that you might need by, not asking you to cite sources, or maybe, actually read for to be able to read the content correctly, read for understanding and things of that nature. So that's what we would ask. Okay, so let's jump on over to today's topic.
Is it okay if I say one?
Issa, are you talking? You got to talk directly into your mic, dude.
Sure.
Issa, you got to talk into the mic.
Now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Great. Yep, sorry. The thing that I wanted to comment on was about the doctorate thing that Mr. Paul was discussing. The thing is, people can get doctorates and be pretty, mad, be pretty crazy, because there's a lot of work that's in it. And also there's a lot of, what do they call it? Politics that you have to play. There's a lot of games you have to play with people. So let's say you're an amazing writer, but if you don't agree with what the professor states, they'll fail you. It's really bad.
Happened to my sister.
It's disgusting and evil.
There's ways to approach that, because I had a disagreement with the prof when I was going through my program, and it dealt with creation of the earth and an approach to it. And he told and I went to him. I said, look, I completely disagree with what you're saying in this class. I completely disagree with the text. I mean, we had to read like a 600-page book. but there's ways that you can do it, but you have to be, in an academic setting, you just have to be respectful is all. You just can't say, well, I think you're an idiot for believing that, even though that might be your personal belief, that the guy's an idiot for believing that, or he completely ignores all the other texts of scripture that support your position. You still, I mean, there's a way to do it, but you just gotta be careful when you do it. But I mean, if you're doing this in, let's say, for an example, a public university, I could actually see the stigmatization and the forcing out of some of those professors, because a lot of those professors are so full of butthurt that they're anytime that somebody would disagree with them, they consider that a challenge to their authority. And this is where you start looking at how secure they are in their knowledge, and anytime that you would provide information that counters that, of course they're gonna want to throw you out because they don't want to hear it.
Bin Laden was a very well-educated man.
Who
Highly
was
educated. He had the doctorate level, I believe.
Who was this?
Bin Laden.
And Bin Laden.
Bin Laden.
He had what
no. What was his Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi?
Master's level. Yeah. No.
Bin Laden. He's the one that had a doctorate in.
Yeah, I think he had the doctorate, and I think al-Baghdadi had
Baghdadi had a PhD from Baghdad University.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I was gonna say, yeah.
So I mean, he knows just a little bit about Islam. They're cutting the people's heads off, cutting the hands. If he knows what that verse says in 533. Just a little bit more than maybe some commentator on the news. Okay, let's go ahead and jaunt on over to our.
He knows more than someone who's taken 2 classes at Michigan University.
All right. So
maybe
before we start into this topic, I want people to understand this. There's going to be a video Eric's going to share, and I want people to understand what Islam says about what Islamic scholars are saying about women and women's rights first.
Here it is.
That is what Islam is when it comes to our women folk. We honor them, we respect them, we dignify them at a level no Western society can match. Islam gave them their rights. This idea of feminism and whatnot, it's just to enslave them in a capitalist society. Go to work and work for your boss and make some money instead of spending time with the kids that you bore. To see motherhood as a bad thing. And that's our fault too. We have to remind these women folk that
someone's got to be muted. You can hear you shuffling your papers.
Our mothers, by honoring our women folk, by honoring our mothers and our women folk, will we show that these women that motherhood is a beautiful thing, that you don't have to go and become a slave to the capitalist system and start working just like we do.
So it's something to think about. That's what they're stating. And if that's what if that's what they really believe, I guess we have to stop and think, and that's what they're teaching. So this this is my presentation that I just shared up.
I'll put it back up there. I just want to make sure everybody understands that this is the subjugate. This is the way you subjugate somebody, saying, "Well, look, your purpose in life is what we tell you. Your purpose in life is if you want to, if you want to pursue a career on your own, if you want to get educated on your own, that's wrong. You're going to do what we say, not as a." Go ahead.
What do you think about that, Darcy?
Yeah. Oh, she must be away from
Darcy's been silent.
I think the biggest, my biggest problem with that. Okay, my biggest problem with the statement, is that this is actually in social studies textbooks in the United States now.
Obviously, not trying to push it as a narrative, right?
Oh, it is. It is being taught as a narrative. It's not a question.
Kidding me?
Yeah, it is being taught that Islam gave women their equal rights.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's in textbooks. It's been in textbooks since about 2008.
I think the argument you could make is that they gave more rights at that time. That would be an argument that could be made, but you couldn't say it's a timeless position. It doesn't work. Like you could say, look, women weren't buried alive, women could own property, but I think even in pre-Islamic Arabia, Khadija, you could say Radhiyallahu anha, was able to have her property too. So, I mean, it's a complex narrative. Did women have equal rights? Maybe. You have to understand, in ancient times, it was pretty bad for women all around. It wasn't really a great time for women in general. So it's hard to say. You could say more rights, but you can't say equality. There's definitely not equality and equity at all. That's impossible. There's no equity. Women are worth 2 men in court.
Well, they don't tell them. They never mention those things. So
and also you have the unilateral divorce. You have talaq. I don't know if people know about talaq, but talaq is
talaq.
Divorce. And it's a Jewish. It comes from the Jewish tradition too. This is a problem in the Orthodox Judaism too. A man can get a unilateral divorce, but it's very hard for a woman to get a divorce. You have to get a bill of divorce called a get. It's very complex, but it's
with 4 witnesses.
Tradition. Mm-hmm. So a woman has to prove a case. If she wants a divorce, she has to get a thing called a khul, which is like she has to prove a case that the man is inadequate. So. Yeah, it's very hard to say there's equality and equity. And also, there's also the inheritance laws. Women get like 50% of what men get. It's unequal. And I think we just got to be honest and just about it. You could say they got more rights than that's an argument that could be an arguable argument you can make, is that they got more rights than they had before. But you can't say there was equality and equity. I heard a feminist talking about just like, well, men have to please us. And I'm like, kind of not quite. It's misleading. It's misleading. Yeah. The thing is, the woman has to please the man. That's usually what it is. So just being honest and transparent. That's just the way that it is.
All right. Okay.
Could anybody else want to throw in a comment on that, or we're going to go to Paul's slideshow? All right, let's go to Paul's slideshow. There we go.
Okay. Can you enlarge that? Thank you. So this is actually a chapter in my last book, The Cancer on Civilization Jihad, which you may be interested in, but there's more. I've added more since, as time goes on, you always want to add more and do things. The simple part here, a social norm is a behavior. Is it endorsed by Islam's? Is it a behavior endorsed by Islam? That's basically what this is asking. And I got to get to the right page here. Okay. So the World Health Organization every February 6th has a Stop FGM Day. So that was the original reason I got onto this topic. I did it on my show. I can't post to YouTube until March. So that's why I'm telling people, if you want to subscribe to me, you have to go to Rumble. I'm posting there. And I'm doing live casts there. So if you want to come on Thursdays, great. But every February 6th, they have a Stop FGM Day. So that's one of the reasons why this is the discussion today. It is a human rights issue. I'm not denying that. So let's define what we're talking about. I always believe that you have to define your terms. And when you discuss apologetics or anything, anything in a scholarly manner, you must start with a definition. So what is FGM, female genitalia mutilation? It comprises of all procedures that involve altering or injuring the female genitalia for non-medical reasons. Okay, that is extremely important, for non-medical reasons. This is according to the United Nations. The practice has been termed as a violation of human rights, as well as the integrity and health of human girls by the global body. Female genital mutilation is primarily concentrated in 30 countries in the Middle East and Africa, and also practiced in parts of Asia, Latin America. Practices also found in immigrant populations living in Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, North America, the United States, people, and Canada. Think about that. And Mexico. Wow. And there are about 4.2 million girls globally who are at risk of undergoing FGM in 2022 alone. So that is.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. Is there anywhere in the biblical scriptures that requires a woman to be physically circumcised?
No. There's
Thank you.
not even description of it.
Thank you.
There's just male circumcision. That's it. That's what what's that called? The contract, the
mark of the covenant.
Is a mark of the covenant. Yes.
It's the
No, that's why I asked physically. That's why
Yeah.
I asked physically.
Yeah. So the history of this is the practice of the FGM has been around for thousands of years. The efforts to end it have intensified. There's people like me and others who are out there trying to get this out. And now they have an International Day of Zero Tolerance for it, which started in 2012. All right. So Dr. Ian Askew, who works for WHO, we'll forgive him for that. He has been consistent in his stand against FGM. So for that, I give him props. I may not like his other reproductive stance, but I do think he is to be honored for his stand against FGM. He wrote this. FGM describes all procedures that involve the partial or total. You know what, Eric? Can you remove the bottom banner, because I do want the people to see that I am putting sources up there that they can use. Thank you. Everything this is a scholarly type thing. I want to communicate that I'm doing my best to share facts. I'm not making crap up. So I'm giving you sources as well where I get the information. More than 200 million. I should go back. Sorry. FGM describes all procedures that involve partial or total removal of external genitalia or other injury to female genital organs for non-medical reason. Has no health benefits. More than 200 million girls, women alive today are living with FGM, and many are at risk of suffering the associated negative health consequences as a result. I added those into the presentation for today because I thought that I was negligent in not putting in. So these include severe bleeding problems, urinating. Longer-term consequences range from cysts, infections, to complications in childbirth, and increased risk of newborn deaths. It's a grave violation of the human rights of girls and women.
One other question. Does it affect a woman? Excuse me for being outward here, but does it affect her ability during intercourse?
That's going to be discussed a little bit later on, and the answer is it can be extremely painful, and that's actually a quote I have on that in a few minutes.
Okay.
So this next slide here is another statement by.
I'm sorry, Paul. I had myself muted. I wanted to touch on the childbirthing.
Yeah.
Part of that. When you remove pieces down there, what you're doing is you're removing sensation. So when we start talking about the process of childbirth and women not having those sensations or those. I want to make sure we say this correctly because we don't want to get to, but when you don't have that ability to feel what you need to be doing in order to push that child out, you run into birthing problems. And I read, it was a peer-reviewed paper that I read this week on that, to where women that have had this done to them face significant increases in problems in childbirth. And it's like a 260, it seems like it was a 263% increase in instances with child problems with birthing a child, simply because they do not have the ability to have that sensory ability because that's been removed. So it isn't just taking away the sensation of gratification for in intimacy. It's causing all kinds of other problems. All right.
Yes. Thank you. Ian Askew did a thing here. And this is I'm going to show you one more in a second, but these myths that are out there, we're going to talk about them too. It says only girls who undergo FGM can enter womanhood, and considered respectable. This is one of the reasons why some girls in some cultures are getting this. And this goes, again, it goes beyond Islam, but primarily in the world today, the main customers are followers. I'm not saying the children are and the women are the customers. I am saying the parents in general are the customers. These are the victims. Okay. Another one put out there by Ian Askew, treat the health conditions that may affect women with FGM. Gynecological complications, menstrual problems, pelvic pain, obstetric problems such as difficult labor, which was just mentioned, mental health disorders, sexual dysfunction, such as painful intercourse. So
hey, Paul, can we discuss that just for a second? The painful intercourse piece of it.
Yeah, that's right up in here in this quote that I've got on the screen.
Oh, okay, go ahead. We'll circle. We'll come back to it. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. It says these are from 3 women who have undergone FGM, and the source is going to be on the next few pages. But it says one of these ladies, Alima, who is 30 years old, says, "I think FGM is the worst thing that has ever happened to me. I lost the right to my body, the desire to experience what it feels like to be a woman." And she's from Guinea. Gadito, I cannot pronounce that correctly. She says, I am afraid of having sex at the age of 23.
It's Khadija too. The name is Khadija too. Yes.
Thank you. She says, I'm still afraid of having sex at the age of 23. I try to avoid sex as much as I can because I only get pain from it. From the Gambia. Khadija too. Thank you. I saw it, and this one kind of hit me. I saw a clitoris for the first time when my daughter was born. I mean,
what the heck? Really?
And she's 19. Look that she's 19. When was she sexually active? Think about that. She's 19 years old. That's something else to think about.
She hasn't seen. I mean, that tells you about the culture. On that, she's not seeing other women with this feature, and this means that the clitoris is totally being removed in the culture that she is within. And so let's talk about these health-related problems.
Let me just go back to that first quote there. Let's circle back to that. Let's go back to. Can you go back? There we go. Worst thing that's ever happened. I lost the right to my body and desire, experience what it feels. Oh no, it was the second one. I'm still afraid because I only get pain from it. Okay, so if you are a woman, it says right here, according to the Sharia, it is obligatory for the wife to obey her husband, as is customary in allowing him full lawful sexual enjoyment of her person. So when you have the law that requires you to engage in sexual intercourse because your husband now has lawful rights to your body for his own gratification, all you're doing, even though it causes you pain, all you are doing is subjugating this woman to a lifetime of misery. So this is what is so absolutely grotesque about this, because what you're doing is you're taking away the desire of the woman to engage in this activity. But number 2, you're making it painful, and you're taking away the desire and adding pain to it, and then requiring them to engage in it whenever the husband wants them to. That's sick.
I'm not finding this anywhere in the United States Constitution. I'm trying to really grasp this, because I know a lot of women that I'm around, that I live with, that would have a huge major problem with this. Of course, they don't know about Islam, and especially at this part. They really don't know about this part.
Yeah.
But I guess my point is
that you're going to demand, or you're going to advertise as part of your.
Well, yeah, but I think my point is that the United States should go above and beyond to make this practice illegal.
They did, and at least one state did, and
Michigan
did, and
it should be nationwide.
I agree 100%. We can't do this under commie under the red, green, loving regime that's in office right now. But we'll see. I've written. Maybe I'll work on something for this. I've written something else that I've gotten proposed. So let me see if I can work with some medical professionals and maybe work on this, getting a law on this too. All right. So I just want to go quickly over this. This is such a horrible thing, people. And this is why I put this in. This is a little more detailed than I like to talk about, but I think it's important that we understand what's happening here. The physical consequences of FGM. Physical, short-term, severe pain from the cutting of nerve ends and sensitive tissue, hemorrhages, shock, pain or hemorrhage, difficulty in urination, defecation due to swelling, edema, or pain, infections, and there you see it, death. Long-term. Severe chronic pain due to trapped or unprotected nerve ends, dermoid cysts, abscesses, genital ulcers, excessive scar tissue, pelvic infections, slow and painful menstruation, urination, greater risk. This is the one that kind of surprised me. Greater risk of HIV transmission due to increased prevalence of genital herpes and likelihood of bleeding during sexual intercourse. Psych consequences. Now, again, this is from sanctuariesforfamilies.org, an organization within the United States that talks about FGM in the United States. That's what these last 2 pages have been from. It's the same source. Look at that report date, 2013. FGM is a psychological traumatic event due to pain, shock, and the use of physical force
and they've done nothing.
Yeah. By those performing the procedure, because family members frequently do not tell a girl or woman that they're taking her to undergo FGM or refuse to listen to any objections. Survivors often feel betrayed or socially isolated in the aftermath of the procedure and come to mistrust or fear some of their closest family members, including their parents. Survivors harbor deep feelings of shame. Some who survive when others in a batch. I hate this kind of concept to even think about it, but when one of those in the batch dies, it's just a nasty way to look at this. It's nastier than it is, which is kind of hard to believe. Many FGM survivors suffer from depression, anxiety, multiple phobias, which make perfect sense to me. It's not a phobia if they're actually trying to kill you. Memory loss, PTSD. This is all psychological, people. So survivors commonly describe feelings incomplete and inferior to other women, low self-esteem, poor body image. Victims who are subjected to FGM at an older age and have memory of the trauma are often the most severely affected. FGM may also impact the psychological aspects of sexual health, which is what we've just talked about. Traumatic memories of the procedure. Painful menstruation, painful intercourse can lead to fear of sexual intercourse. Continuing lack of sexual enjoyment can also result in decreased sexual desire or cause other psychosexual health problems. This is not an easy thing to discuss.
Were you getting into the whys of why women are forced to do this? I mean,
we're working our way.
Okay. Yeah. And what Paul and I were having a discussion about this before the show. This would be the equivalent. Well, we'll get into the whys here. As we go. Okay. All right. Let's just do that first.
We're going to get there in a. Okay. So.
My first question before you guys even go there, is this anywhere in the Quran?
No.
Thank you.
So those people who are Quran only, or there are those who are Meccan Muslims who only accept Islam before Muhammad left Mecca would not accept FGM because these other passages, the hadiths, they don't accept as well. But let's get into this. Now, this article was published January 5th, 2021, and the question is the pandemic causing a surge in female genitalia mutilation? This is by WSKG.org, and they write, in early December, Christine Gotti Alphonse taught a menstrual hygiene class to a group of girls 10 to 15 years old in the ethnic Kurdia community of Migori County, an impoverished rural area in southwest Kenya. Normally, she says, the class has 25 students. On this day, only 17 girls showed up. We lost some of these girls, says Gotti Alphonse, founder of Safe Engage Foundation, a community-based group that works to end FGM. According to Gotti Alphonse, the 8 missing girls had all undergone the cut. That's why it's also called FGC. 2 of them had been married off. These are kids. The other 6 were home recovering. 9 other girls who attend the class had also been cut in recent months. Gotti Alphonse's missing students are part of massive waves of girls believed to have been subjected to FGM in many cases. Now, this is the reason why I'm talking about this is we are still, some of us in the world are still suffering from the idiocy of the lockdown. And what this is saying is that the lockdown forced people into other forms of income. Well, guess what? Here it is. It says it right here. Anti-FGM activists say lockdown on school closures during the pandemic left many girls at home vulnerable to genital cutting. In communities, they see that practices as prerequisite for marriage. This is one of the belief structures. In some places, as a rite of passage, girls are normally being protected and shielded by the fact that they are in school. When they removed the school, they removed the safety net that these girls had. And I'm just going to skip to this next one. I do praise the work of Ebony Riddle Bamber. She's out of London. She writes, in parts of West Africa, some former cutters who had abandoned FGM had returned to the practice because, this is from her, because it was the way that they saw that they could obtain some income at a difficult time, says Ebony Riddle Bamber, head of policy advocacy at the Orchid Project. But the increase in FGM, particularly startling in Kenya because the country, which outlawed the practice in 2011, was widely seen as making real strides towards eradicating it. Last year, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta made an ambitious pledge to stamp out FGM by 2022. Then came the pandemic, which redirected policing and other resources elsewhere, allowing local traditional leaders to flout the law. Again, that's from that WSKG article, but I have read a lot of work by Miss Bamber, and she is also a victim of FGM. And again, this is a organization, Orchid Project. If you have free extra cash flowing around, I would support.
Okay,
Right. Here we go.
Back, Paul, okay. Go back real quick. Notice it says in that last line that it's nearly universal among some ethnic groups and practically non-existent among others. I would be interested in which groups it's non-existent in and which groups it is universal, nearly universal.
Nearly universal.
See that data.
Okay, that's an interesting statement. And it says the data. If you're looking at that, the persons who have the data is UNICEF, and I did see some data in articles that I read. The non-existent would be primarily Christians and Jews.
That's the point I'm trying to make. That's the point. That's
so
my point
the point
exactly.
Where you're seeing this almost to 100% is followers of Islam and in their communities. And this isn't just Islam. Please understand that. I'm not saying that it's all that, but there are hadiths that push this. So that's where I'm going next to show you how Islam gets away with pushing this. So
here's the point I'm trying to make, is that the Quran nowhere mentions this, so Muhammad's word trumps Allah's word on this. Okay, I haven't actually found all the sources yet, but I see some of them right now. But even the hadith you're fixing to go through, the authority or authenticity of them are in question for sure.
So this next slide here, so I'm going to go through some of the hadiths on this. And what I want to make sure that people see is they look down at the bottom where it says grade.
Sahih.
Sahih.
That means
and this is
authentic.
Yeah. This is extremely important to understand when we're citing hadiths. And this comes from sunnah.com, and I copied them and pasted them here because I want people to understand that when something is sahih, it has to be accepted. It's not a choice. So,
wait a second now. Hold on a second. We had a whole debate a couple weeks ago where Sahih Hadith were cited, and we're told that we can't trust them.
Yeah, well, now, here's the other thing, guys. Pull that back up, Paul. Pull that hadith back up.
I'll put it back. That's my fault.
Okay. Do you notice how many how many words there are on the left as compared to what's on the right?
Yeah, that's the rest is the tradition.
What's going on here, man?
That's the oral tradition. Mm-hmm. I actually copied that and put it into the translator, and that was what you're saying there. All the rest is the oral tradition.
Okay, John's here. Hold on a second, guys. John's here.
Wait, oral tradition? But wait, it's written down. It's no longer oral, is it? Right?
Okay, John.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, can you translate what is the entire thing on the right side of the screen?
Yeah, it's it says that حدثنا means the isnad or the chain of narration. It says that Muhammad, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, if circumcised people, a man met the circumcised woman, they should make like ghusl. Ghusl mean like a purification. Go take shower and clean themselves well. And this is hadith Hasan Sahih hadith. And this hadith is mentioned from another chain of narration from Aisha about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam the same way. Well, and that is the speech or the accepted by the majority of the Islamic scholars, like Abu Bakr, Umar ibn Khattab, Osman ibn Affan, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Aisha, the wife of Muhammad, and a lot of fuqaha or scholars of Islam. This is the Arabic part.
Thank you very much.
So basically, all of these guys agree with what we see on the left.
And again, the important part on this particular hadith is who is saying this. This is Aisha, who is also known as the mother of Islam. And she's quoting the Prophet, but
yeah,
this is an implication that this has been done to her. Now, I want you to also think about this. This would have been done to her around the age of 5 or 6, because he married her, and then, yeah, think about this. And today, the average age of a girl undergoing this procedure is under the age of 15.
Is that possible at 5 or 6? Really?
Yes, it is. And All right, I gotta move my mouse. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it just gets too gross for me to think about. How about this one? A woman used to perform circumcision in Medina. The prophet said to her, "Do not cut severely, as that is better for a woman, more desirable for a husband." Abu Dawood said, "It has been transmitted, blah, blah, blah." That's where we're looking at, this is again Sahih. This comes from Abu Dawood. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Abu Dawood, Abu, I don't know the difference there. But this is, he's saying don't cut severely. So this is again my biggest issue here, and I started out saying it. Definitions are important. You can't define. I'm not saying that there should be, and again, I like Ian Askew's statement. There is no medical reason for this, and it is mutilation. Okay, let's go on. There's more.
Yeah, and we don't find it anywhere else in any of the other, how do I say, biblical teachings whatsoever.
No,
like this.
No. This is from Sahih Bukhari, book 82, Hadith 6. Allah's apostle said, "No child is born but has the Islamic faith, but its parents turn into Jew or Christian. As you help the animals give birth, do you find among their offspring a mutilated one before you mutilate them yourselves?" This mutilation reference is to,
what?
yeah, mutilated ones. Who are we talking about? If Allah is talking,
you're kidding me.
What I did to find this is the interesting part. I typed in circumcision.
This is Sahih Bukhari.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was typing in circumcision. Now, I don't know if this is a direct reference to male circumcision, but my understanding is this could be a possible reference to both. So I've got another one here. This is again Abu Dawood.
It's talking about child being born here. So yeah, I can see that.
A woman narrated Atiya al-Anisaria. A woman used to perform circumcision in Medina. A prophet said to her, "Don't cut severely." You've heard this story before, all right? You've heard this hadith before, and again, don't cut severely. There's one person's concept of severe is much different than another's, and that's where I get severely concerned. I'm dealing with a possible malpractice case right now with my family, and a doctor not doing something simple it's just
yeah. Well, if you tried that back then, they just chop your head off.
So this next passage comes from Sharia, which we find in Reliance the Traveler. It reads, "Circumcision is obligatory for both men and women. For men, it consists of removing the prepuce from the penis, and for the women, removing the prepuce bizarre of the clitoris, not the clitoris itself, as some mistakenly assert. Hanabali holds that circumcision of women is not obligatory, but Sunnah, but Hanafis consider it a mere courtesy of the husband." So if we look at this is the notes. If you look at the notes, okay, it says a comment by Sheikh Abd al-Wakil Darubi. Okay, so we just got rid of all that. That's not part of it. If you take a look at on the right, that's not there. Okay, Arabic. Okay, let's remove that. Oh, what does O mean? Okay, so
before you go any further, I just want you to know that the actual origin of the word clitoris
is clit.
It's from the early.
It actually
17th.
says clit in this. It's slang in this writing.
But I'm just letting you know that it's from the early 17th century. Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is actual slang for in Sharia. I asked what do for this information, and he told me it said clit. I was kind of surprised. All right. So we remove the commentary from O. Okay. How about N? We remove that. Now think about it. Circumcision is obligatory. For men, it consists of removing the prepuce from the penis. For women, refusing the prepuce of the clitoris. That's it. So all these little things that they have here that, to kind of distract, got removed. The only thing that you really need to know is that under Sharia, it's obligatory.
And that reliance of the traveler is using 17th century language.
Yeah. Well, it's actually, I will go farther, and I will say that this is not necessarily 17th century. This is where I'll argue. The English translation, I don't know when it was made. I have to go back and take a look. But this is a translation accepted by the Muslim Brotherhood group known as the International Institute of Islamic Thought, and they praise this. And so does Saudi Arabia's people. They also praise this translation. So
that's fine, as long as they understand that it's from the 17th century.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if it's from the 17th century, what are they hiding back in Muhammad's time, supposedly?
Okay, so what do Islamic scholars say? This I picked up this past week, female circumcision, an Islamic perspective. They wrote circumcision. This is by Asif Hussein, and look at the top. It says it's by Ceylon Muslim. Diverse. I look at this language, diversity and inclusiveness. So you can tell it's really recent because those are terms just made up and used recently. Circumcision is my way for men and ennobling in women. Bahaki. Now, here's the other part that got me. This is the real reason why I put this page up here. This last part. It says 5 are the acts of fitra: circumcision, removing pubic hair, clipping the mustache, cutting the nails, plucking the hair under the armpits.
Ouch.
Now, originally, I did not put that in with hadiths. Now, there's a reason I didn't. Because my reading of this would have made this directly towards men. Because not many females are clipping mustaches. I mean that, and that's how I would.
Oh, are you sure about that?
Well, I asked someone else, and
that was actually a discussion we had Thursday about some women with the Oh, I just want to point out that Genitalia posted that hadith there about what is fiqh and
this is.
Or fitra, I'm sorry.
Yeah, my understanding of fitra is that this is for, this is for both sexes. Fitra is something that is for both sexes. But when I looked at it, I personally excluded it because I thought, I don't want to put in something that would be wrong. But when I find Islamic scholars citing that, that's why I included it. And it is the only reason I included it. I'm going to stop share with this and go back to, I'm going to put up the other video for this next video up. So I have an Islamic scholar defending FGM next. Okay, let me pull that up. And the joy of sharing.
Yeah, maybe we should try. We should do it for him.
Okay, did I stop? Did I step on you, Paul?
Don't worry about it because I had to stop.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'll have to come back and share it. Okay.
قالوا إن أهل الذكر من الأطباء أكدوا أن الختان الإناث له أضرار قد تصل إلى الموت. وبالتالي الشريعة الإسلامية من مقاصدها الحفاظ على النفس. حضرتك قلت لي قبل كده.
طبعا.
فكل عمل يهدد هذا المقصد اللي هو الحفاظ على النفس فهو حرام كما تقول دار الإفتاء المصرية. وكتبوا النقطة اللي هنشوفها على الشاشة دي دلوقتي، إن الختان يؤدي إلى الموت. ده في نهاية الفيديو. وأظن هي دي النقطة الأخطر اللي ممكن الناس تقلقها أو تخاف منها.
الختان يؤدي إلى الموت.
Okay. Listen to his excuses
وركوب
here.
القطر يؤدي إلى الموت. وركوب الطيارة يؤدي إلى الموت.
He says flying in a plane can lead to death. Drinking water can lead to death.
والأكل
Eating eggplant can lead to death.
يؤدي إلى الموت.
إزاي؟
وإحنا
إيه علاقة ده
How are
كله؟
how are these relevant?
مين اللي قال الكلام ده؟
الأطباء، أهل الذكر.
أهل الذكر مين؟ طب ما أنا أمي وأختي وبنتي ومراتي، والأهل بيقول أهل الذكر ده أمه وأخته ومراته كلهم وما ماتوش يعني. ما لم احنا في عرفنا، وحضرتك راجل قروي زي حالاتي، هل ثبت ان في يوم من الايام سمعنا ان في واحده ماتت وهم بيختنوها؟ وطبعا انت عارف عرف القرى عندنا يعني، ده بيعمل لها حفله دي، مش كده ولا ايه؟
صحيح.
مين ماتت؟ هاتوا لنا كده يا اهل الذكر، انتوا يا اهل الافتاء، كم حاله عدوا لنا كده، كم حاله ماتت اثناء الختان؟
Can you pause that just for a second, Paul?
الولاده بتؤدي الى الموت ولا لا؟ كم حاله ماتت؟
Yes.
Okay. So let's just ask a couple questions here, because he's saying that well, you can die from eating an eggplant, you can die from drinking water. Women don't die from this practice, but what the question is,
that's what he's saying. He's questioning whether women die. He's not saying they don't die. He's questioning, and what's the he's really he's trying to laugh at it, at that complaint.
And that's the point I'm trying to make. He's making light of the fact that you are permanently scarring women, not only physically, but also psychologically, all the while ignoring the other half of the tango. Because if you're going to do this, have we gotten into the part why they do this yet? I mean, it says in the Reliance of the Traveler, it's obligatory. It's a courtesy for the husband.
So the Hadiths and the Reliance of the Traveler are the wise for Muslims. All right. And
we look at
scholars are saying here's one Islamic scholar saying it doesn't really matter that it can cause death, because if you drink too much water, you can die. If you eat too much eggplant, you can die. If you do this, you do that, it doesn't matter.
But does it say that in the Quran? Does it say that in the Quran?
No, but of course not.
Of course not.
Go ahead, Ed.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, the Quran is where it all is supposed to happen for the Muslims, right? But yet here we are going with the Hadith of Muhammad that are superseding the Quran. I don't get it. What's up with that?
Well, my question is why are they doing this in the first place? I mean, what is the motivation behind doing this to little girls? Why is this a courtesy to a husband? If you're making the intimacy between the two people who are married, if you are damaging that and making it painful to do that, what is the purpose of doing this?
They believe that the purpose of doing this is that the girl is normally over-sexualized, and that if they don't do this, that she will be an adulterous woman, and that that one man could not satisfy her. So apparently, people, I can't say those words. Okay, I'm going to say something crass I normally wouldn't. Forgive me ahead of time, please. I'm going to say that people with tiny little things down there think that they can't satisfy a woman well enough, and that she'd have to seek someplace else if she wasn't cut. That's what it comes down to.
All right, thank you.
Well, it's a confidence issue then. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's the only thing that makes sense to me. Especially when we know we have the science behind it that says this is bad. We have the science behind it that says what it does.
That explains Allah Akbar.
This mutilation. It is nothing but mutilation. There is no justification for this. There's no medical
justification. Make them feel worse. It's make them feel worse than how they feel. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to go back to, okay, so you said that the one of the motivations for doing this is because girls could become overly sexualized, and this would prevent them from committing adultery. Am I right? This
Yeah,
is
that's what they believe.
Okay, so this is a justification to prevent women from committing adultery, because if they go out and commit adultery, number one, it's going to be painful to them. Number two, you're
Because they'll
taking
get
away
killed.
okay, well, I mean, just the act itself would be painful. But number two, I mean, probably primarily, you're taking away that desire, that innate desire that you have to
Well,
have intimacy with men. Okay, so
they don't believe a woman can have those. That's what it comes. They don't. They believe a normal woman who has not had this. They believe that woman is over sexualized and needs more sex than an average man can handle.
Okay,
that's why I'm saying
so we go back to a
little
confidence
thing.
issue. Right, we go back to a confidence issue. But okay,
Yeah, that's idiot.
Here's where I want to. If you are going to be consistent, if they want to be consistent about this, who in the world commits adultery more often? Is it the female or is it the male?
So let's go back to what you and I were saying ahead of time, Eric, and I'll let you.
I'm getting there, Paul. Hold on. Let me make this point.
We all know the answer to that question, by the way.
So if it is indeed the man, all the statistics, demonstrate that. I mean, it's like a 70-30 split. Anyway, so the likelihood of one of the two that are tangling that to commit adultery, it's the male. It's not the female. It's the male who goes out. I mean, why the heck do you think that you have they have a provision for having sex slaves and concubines and that which your right hand possesses? Why do you think they have that to begin with? Well, it's because the men don't want to control their own desires. So in order to nip this in the bud, if they are going to continue this practice, I would be all for it. Not really, but let's just pretend that they would go for this. I would say that men don't even have to go. I'm not talking about getting bobbited. You guys remember that term? Getting
yes,
bobbit, the guy
Lorena Bobbitt. Yes.
Yeah, Tanya Bobbitt.
You threw it out the window. It's okay.
So we're just talking about cutting one ball off.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not even talking about getting bobbited. I'm just talking. Okay. Just give up one. Just give up one of your testicles. Just cut it off. Say, okay, here's my skin in the, lack of a better term, my skin in the game in this marriage. To prevent me from being an adulterer, I'm going to cut one of these things off, and I'm going to maybe put it in a jar, put it on the marriage mantle or whatever they have there, just as a reminder of your commitment to this marriage, and that you do not have the same desires that you had when you had two and you only have one. Or if you really want to go all the way, complete castration. Just just do away with it.
I'm going to pass on all that. I'm just saying.
I was just fixing to ask Radical, what you got to say about that, bro?
So medically, we do know that this is the difference between your sexual organs being inside and outside. The men's desire is in their head. They have physical wants. That's not a question. But this desire originates in the brain. So even cutting off one, I mean, as a show, are they really? Here's the thing: would they really want to go through brain surgery to be? I mean, because that's more of the equivalent. Because
here's the thing: is that okay? Make them go through it without anesthesia, just like they make these little girls go through it.
Yeah.
And then tell me how that works out for you. Tell me if you would still want to continue this practice being performed on the one that is your wife. And I can promise you are going to get 0 volunteers on this. And this practice would stop almost immediately if you made that a requirement. Not that I'm for making that a requirement. I'm not for that. But if you were to provide what's the watchword today? Equity. If you're going to make everything equitable, okay, fine. Let's get some skin in the game, guys. And you do the same thing. This is why I mentioned at the beginning. It was just that this is such a barbaric practice because it's meant to subjugate the woman. The woman's purpose in life, according to the Sharia, is to satisfy the man whenever the man desires her. And if it's painful for the woman, and it's that makes it a way to subjugate her and to control her. And again, this is the misogynistic character of Islam itself. It's the domination of the woman and not respecting any rights of the woman at all, and then trying to shroud it in, like the guy at the beginning of the show was saying, well, we will respect our women. They should stay home and raise the children and not do a doggone thing the rest of their life other than have children and raise children. And then in the process of all this, it hurts and make it painful for them. And then this other guy mocking it. That just makes you want to reach across that table and just slap him like a little girl.
Well, it makes me want to do a whole lot more than that.
Let's go to this next slide. Let's see what a lying sack of garbage that man was.
Okay.
And
I'm not sharing your screen.
I call him a lying sack of garbage because there's a few articles that were out there. This one, death in Somalia after a female genital mutilation procedures, came out in 2018 by Alana Barron. 2 sisters bled to death in Somalia after they were forced to undergo female FGM earlier this week, the latest tragic death in a country. And believe it or not, the Communist News Network reported it. Asio Abdi Warsame, 10, and her sister Khadija, 11, were cut in a remote village in Puntland's state in the northeast on September 11th. They bled for 24 hours after the procedure. And I blame the parents, but a lot of the truth in this is that it is not unusual and the parents are the one who brought their children. Children can't make this decision. And then they didn't seek additional medical help. And that's part of that, where they would be blamed for being bad luck. And these kids died.
Did you see what guys? Did you see what Genitalia just put in there?
This one.
Yes, that one.
Yeah,
right
that is
type 3, isn't it? Because there are different. Because when I was looking, there's 4 different types of this process. Okay.
That's actually
that's the third.
Okay, I can hold on. I've got another screen I can share on that. It goes above my knowledge, and I'm going to stop
we
sharing.
Start talking about them having urinary tract infections and having all of these terrible things, for example, menstruating, and all of these things that need to occur in that region, biological things that need to occur for women in that region of their body. And what you do is you go in and you artificially prevent it because of what? Well, because of the desires of the man. That's abuse. That is barbaric abuse to do that to women.
Can you share that?
Yeah, that's what Muhammad taught, was the barbaric abuse of women. You hear that, Muslims? You hear that? Muhammad taught the barbaric abuse of women.
Right.
So the first level, clitorectomy, or the partial or total removal of the clitoris or the clitoral hood. They do mention the hood in some Islamic passages that they're talking about. Okay, so this level 2, partial or total removal of clitoris and the inner labia, and is an inclusion. It's not an or. And it's possible without the removal of the outer labia. Level 3, type 3, infibulation, removal of external female genitalia, and the sealing or narrowing of the vaginal opening using stitches or glue. One of the cases I first read about with this, it made me want to vomit and just get sick, because the woman required multiple surgeries. This may be the woman I'm saying, Miss Bamber. I've read several stories similar to this, and You know, when I was working on my book, Cancer Civilization Jihad, I wanted to include this because not because it's a barbaric practice, but because it is the only faith structure that endorses this. There are cultures, here I'm saying cultures, that do not include Islam that endorse this, but Islam is the only faith structure that has it.
Question: was there anesthesia being used at that time?
No.
So there,
anesthesia wasn't
Yeah.
widely used until the mid 1800s, and that was in
Right.
developed countries.
but even
Exactly.
Ed is not wrong in talking about that, and I'm going to be sharing a video in a few seconds. That's for today. It reveals that they don't use any anesthesia today to do this barbaric practice. I gotta just.
No, I've seen enough of these testimonies this week to clearly demonstrate that when you hear your sister screaming in the next room, it's not because she's being scared to death. She's screaming because the thing that they're doing to you or to her, they're going to do on you next. You have too many testimonies of women out there saying that they never felt pain like that before. They never knew that the body could have, you could have to sense something that painful.
So if you pull it,
Arian Hershey Ali, she was
a big freedom of speech fighter, yes.
Right. She was from Somalia, had it done to her. And this is one of the reasons why she said she left Islam, is because she understood it was a barbaric practice, and that the pain that she suffered during this was she'd never imagined it being as bad as it possibly could be. She never knew that the body could experience pain like that. So when we start talking about Ed saying, do they use anesthesia? No, they don't. So they do not numb it. They don't try to, what is it, lidocaine or whatever. You know, like I had a growth on my nose when I came back from Iraq, and they did a biopsy on that. Now they just didn't go up there and say, okay, hold still, Eric, and cut it off. They gave me shots of lidocaine to numb it. Now those shots themselves, when you talk about cutting a piece of your body or getting a shot to the place where you have so many nerves, I cannot describe to you the amount of pain it was just to get that shot, so I wouldn't have to feel them cutting that off. The idea of just cutting that little piece of skin that was on the end of my nose off, I don't know. I mean, I don't how you would do that, and to think that women that have the sensitivity in that region of their body to have that cut off without any type of numbing agent or some type of or anything like that, it's just unimaginable.
Well, on top of that, Eric, they have to get in there and remove all of the infection in your nose. So, it's kind of a guessing game at that point, and they don't know how long it's going to take. So, yeah, they had to numb your nose out because they had to get in there and get all of it, right? They didn't just have to cut something off. They had to get in there and get all of it.
Well, there's another thing here that Eric is slightly mentioned. Eric went to a medical professional to do that. These people who run these things, or they're not medical professionals. They may be, here's the thing I'll say, they may have a practice for FGM in countries where it is, quote, legal. But, this could be just your local woman or local man who decides that's where he's going to make his income. This is happening in the United States, people. This is, I'm in communication. We had a chance of having a guest on who's undergone this, and she doesn't want to talk about it. And she said this. She doesn't want to talk about it. It's too painful. I shared with Eric what she said, and it was it was too hard. And she's actually someone who has investigated mosques within the United States, and
we need to find out who's doing it. We need to find out who's doing it and shut them down.
Well, she found a mosque in Texas. She mentioned a mosque in Texas where they were actually doing this. That there was a woman within the mosque offering this procedure. She didn't. In the communication I had, I didn't have that documentation, but I do know. This is from another network that I work with, and she's thankful that we're doing this. By the way, so. I'm gonna be sending this one out as well because I think when we don't discuss, again, this is not an easy topic to discuss, and it's not an easy topic to listen to. It's horrific. I'm not denying it. It's just as horrific. I'll say it's equivalently horrific, and forgive me, all the Jews in the world. To me, this is equivalently horrific to genocide. To think that this is still going on today, the Holocaust stopped, but this is still going on today. Disgusting.
I'm glad you brought that up because you do realize that the guys that convinced the Germans to do what they needed to do was a mufti in Islam.
Yeah, Well, he was in on it. I don't know that he convinced them. I think he was consenting more than convincing. From what I've read, my research.
He's a useful idiot, is what he was.
Yeah, I would consider him a useful idiot. Yeah. If you can pull up the screen for a second, I want to show this last sentence on this page before I go on. And this is where Hersia, when she's from Somalia. In this last sentence, in Somalia, 98% of women and girls between the ages of 15 and 49 have been cut, the highest rate anywhere in the world, according to UNICEF.
Okay, so what's the percentage of Muslims in Somalia? 100%. There's no more. There's no other religions allowed within Somalia itself. They're 100%. And when you say that 98% of them have been subjected to this,
that's the
could
population.
you imagine the horror of having to live in that country as a girl? Just the absolute horror it would be, knowing that this is at some point in your life, this is coming.
I got to know that the wrath of God's coming on them. I mean, really.
Now, this next piece I have.
Hold on,
let me just stop this for a second. So this next piece I have, you're going to want to enlarge that. This comes from the BBC. They consider this a public educational video. A lot of what we have talked about where the kids don't know why they're there. This was published on January 31st in 2020 by the BBC under the title of a document. The title of the article was Female Genital Mutilation, Parents Arrested After Death of Girl in Egypt. And now I'm just going to play this. This just, it hurts. At least it hurts me.
A staircase that led to death for a 17-year-old girl, Mayar Mohammed Musa. She died here after being subjected to female genital mutilation. This private clinic now closed by the authorities. It's in the eastern city of Suez, but the banned procedure is still carried out across Egypt.
Suez? Really?
Mostly by medical staff. The girl was brought here by her own mother, a nurse. Her uncle, Khaled Musa, knows only too well about the dangers of FGM. He's a family planning advisor who goes door to door, warning against it. But all he could do for his niece was give her dead body one last hug. A health official said there was an order to close the clinic 10 days ago, he told the BBC, and it wasn't carried out. What were they doing for 10 days? Then, after the disaster, it was sealed in a few hours. Campaigners fear more disasters, with many young girls at risk of FGM, especially in rural Egypt. It's done in the name of promoting chastity. Many see it, wrongly, as a religious duty. The United Nations says there's a long way to go to change mindsets.
When we were developing this ad and we were testing it among ourselves, I was emotionally affected. I see myself as a father and taking my daughter to be cut. I really thought about it and I got tears in my eyes.
Dr. Magdi Khaled, who is battling FGM, says it's a fight to save lives.
This is really a tragedy that needs to stop, and we will not give up. We will keep saying this. We will keep working with the community. We will keep working on the brains to remove the old traditions.
Those traditions also claimed the life of 13-year-old Sohair Albata. Her doctor was sentenced to 2 years in jail in a landmark case, but hasn't served a day. Her relatives have agreed to a private settlement. Campaign groups are asking how many more girls will be buried before Egypt takes tougher action against FGM. Orla Gearan, BBC News, Cairo.
So how much did they pay her? That's the big question.
That's the thing that I have never. I didn't look. I'm not the guy that chases money. I probably would be making more money if I did.
Yeah, I understand, but that's the question that has to be asked, because we understand with Islam that's basically where everything ends up, right?
Well, Allah likes to spend, so his people like to spend too. My biggest problem with the video is they say that Islam wrongly. They don't come out and say the Islam, which they probably should have. But again, this was in Egypt. That's why I said they should have said Islam. But they also said it was wrongly thought. So by saying that, they have just thrown Bukhari and all the rest of these Sahih hadiths that we read. They've thrown them under the bus.
Mm-hmm.
So either you accept them or you don't. I mean, if they're going to throw them all under the bus, I have no problem with that. Then throw them all out.
But they're depending on the ignorance of the public.
Yes.
Regarding Bukhari. See?
Yeah.
And that's why we're here, is to expose that.
Most of the people in the public can't tell you the difference between the Hijra and the Hajj, and yet they tell us that you shouldn't criticize Islam.
Well, and when they tell me I shouldn't do something,
Hadith and the Quran.
When they tell me I shouldn't do something, that's where I need to go start looking.
I wanted to throw something in here too. I think the importance, this is my position, as I always say, this is why I'm even here. I'm a promoter of free speech. We either have free speech or we don't. Now, if you want to, people are afraid of having tough topics. And I've had that. I've tried having tough topics with people. They get scared and they run away. I'm not afraid of having any tough conversation. This is a tough conversation. It is difficult. And it is something that is very controversial within the Islamic realm, and it needs to be discussed. And pretending that it doesn't exist is a problem. How are you ever going to have solutions if you pretend that there aren't problems? How if you have like a wound in your arm, let's say you have a splinter, right? And you just say there's no splinter there. That doesn't exist. It's going to get festered, it's going to become gangrenous, and it's going to destroy you. So either you go in and you challenge things and you grow. And I think Muslims who are watching the show, Christians, whoever, Muslims who have their faith, they need to challenge these things in their faith. They need to say, look, this is a difficult space. I need to talk about it. I can't pretend it doesn't exist. That's my hot take.
Well, let me ask you a question, Isa. Okay. Do you believe that there are Muslims out there that do not see this as being problematic?
the circumcision? No, they don't, because they believe that this is the purity of the woman. This will keep the woman's chastity. That's the argument for it. That chastity of women will be preserved if this circumcision happens.
Okay, so if they claim that this is sunnah, because Muhammad said that both should be circumcised, if they claim that, how can anybody ever object to this from a religious perspective? Meaning, how can you tell a Muslim that they cannot do this, even though they cannot do this, even though it is barbaric, even though it is one of the most cruel things you can do to a human being, if they believe that they start from the premise that this is sunnah, and if they believe this is sunnah, then they're going to tell you to shut your pie hole because this is what their religion teaches them. So where do you start a conversation with somebody that believes that since Muhammad said it, they can do it, and that's it? That you cannot challenge that.
Well, let's say I take a position of a liberal progressive Muslim. I'm going to be the liberal progressive Muslim in this conversation. I would say, look, you could argue from that. You can argue it through Islam. See, the issue is, in a lot of religious traditions, people cherry pick stuff. So some people who take this position will say the liberal progressive Muslim could call them out and say, hey, you are doing this thing, but you don't do other things. You guys don't believe in halal zabiha. You don't follow the kashrut. There's a certain there's a law of meat, of slaughtering meat in Islam. Particularly Arabs, don't follow this. They don't care about this in general, particularly in America. They don't care about zabiha, but they will care about this type of thing. So that's an argument one could take. I'm just saying. But I think the question you're asking, to be fair, is you're asking, like, legalistically speaking, can these people be challenged? Like, let's say in a Western country where you say this is a barbaric practice that should not be followed. And then you're saying, well, there's religious freedom. What do you do? So the question then arises, if I were to I would take a legalistic position. I'm shifting out of the liberal progressive Muslim to the legalistic position. So if I was like a barrister or a lawyer in this case, what would I say? Well, I would say, okay, you're saying there's freedom of rights. Well, I said, well, there's a caveat to that. The caveat is when your rights end when another rights begin. In this law, there's a thing in this country and in many countries, there's a thing called child abuse. So if a parent does that, that would be considered child abuse. If a father assaults his daughter, a baby daughter, that father is going to be accused of child abuse and they're going to be convicted of it. They don't escape just because they're a parent. There's a certain limitation that parents have in parenting. So if there's someone who does this thing. There's someone who does this circumcision or the FGM, right? There's someone who does it, and it's the parents who do it. The parents are choosing to do this. So the parents can be called out for child abuse, and you could have a tough, like a huge fee that a parent has to pay if they decide they want to do this. They want to do this, then they're going to have to pay a price to do this. There could be like a sanction against it. That's one way of dealing with it. There's many different ways, but I'm just saying that's an argument of dealing with that.
So let's say you have a parent that wants to have their son circumcised. I mean, that's painful.
And there are some people who will argue that that's child abuse. There's some people who will argue
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, you have to make the decision to, because number one, it's in their book. I mean, this is part of their law. This is part of their
hadith and the hadith. Yeah.
And here's the other thing. My hold on just a second, and then I'll let you. You can say what you want. But my point is that you have to look at how this impacts the girls later on in their lives, because for a boy to be to try to equate the two, male circumcision to female circumcision, is basically stupid. It is about as dumb as the day is long. So to try to make that argument is
depending on the circumcision. If you're following, some Muslims believe, some Muslims, not all Muslims take this position, but some Muslims, and that's the same thing with this FGM. Not all Muslims take this position, but there's a position of 7 to 13 years old circumcision. One would argue that's pretty barbaric. 7 to 13 years old is a pretty barbaric thing. The child remembers it. It's a pretty horrific thing to do
for boys. Is that what you're saying?
For boys, and that's the thing, because.
Yeah. And I would agree with that. I mean, when you follow the biblical admonition is what, the eighth day? Eighth day
is correct. Yes.
Right, and that's where the highest amounts of vitamin K are in your blood to clot.
But
right.
in Islam, it's the 7th day. Now, there's an important difference here. It's if
7 years old, 7 to 13 years old.
Yeah, but I want to talk about the difference between the 7th and 8th day, which I find fascinating. On the 8th day, in human growth, it is the day there is a spike in natural immunities. And that's a medical documented thing. I thought it was fascinating when I was looking at that many years ago. But yeah, I have a video next.
Hold on just a second. It's the generation of vitamin K, and it causes higher amounts or clotting. The clotting of the blood is at its highest on the 8th day.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm trying to make with Isa is that you can't approach it from a religious point of view. It has to be from a human rights point of view. What is that child going? Will that child object? Can that child rightfully object when they're older? And if a parent is given the right to mutilate their children, where does it end? I mean, this is where we have.
You're saying it's a slippery slope argument. The slippery slope argument. How far does it go? I get you. Okay.
And even with that, I mean, we see that today with the transgendering crap that's going on. Well, he thinks he's a she, so we automatically go out there and hack it off.
And do gender reassignment surgery, like right away.
Okay. Ed, go ahead.
I was going to say, we spent many years in Iraq. We came in. Why did we go into Iraq? Does anybody remember that?
Weapons of mass destruction. That was the argument.
Saddam Hussein from being able to
okay, but what was the real reason? Nobody remembers.
Oil. That's usually what the argument is. People say that there's lots of oil reserves that were there.
No
way we went in there for oil.
Taking out Saddam Hussein.
No, dude. No. Somebody crashed some airplanes into our World Trade Center. Right?
But that didn't have to do with Iraq, though.
Of course it didn't have. That's okay.
Of course it didn't have to do with Iraq. But guess what? They're all Muslim, dude. Have you not figured this out yet? I mean, they all read the same book, according to them, right? They read the same book. So we went into Iraq instead of where we should have been, Saudi Arabia, and we went in and we took that place out. Hey, tell me if I'm wrong, Eric.
No, well, we had 15 of the 19 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia, but I still think I can make a good case for going into Iraq. But I'm not going to get off topic. I'm not going to get off topic. But I see what you're saying. Right.
So this next video, let me talk about this next video. And I know most of the panel will know who this is. So I'm just going to introduce this guy. Don't play it. We won't play it.
Reacting to what I heard.
All right. So for those of you who don't know, this is Tariq Ramadan, one of the heads of the Muslim Brotherhood at the time he is being put in of the world. All right. He's one of the speakers for the Muslim Brotherhood throughout the world. And Tariq Ramadan
says that they're at the war. Who says that they're at war with the United States? Excuse me.
Yeah. Well, the Muslim and that's an entity within the United States that says it, and the global group also says they're at war with the United States. So, but that let's try and get on this again. Reason why I picked him is because of what he's saying here. I'm going to stop this video in the middle, and Eric knows what I'm going to do because he says something. He's going to make a claim that sounds like he is against FGM. Listen very, very carefully to his words. Let me just start this again. Look at this date. Now, he's called an Islamic scholar at this point in time. All right. We happen to know that at this point, he was already a rapist. Okay. I don't know if he was charged by 2017. I'd have to go back and check. But this man is a rapist. If you can put that up, Eric, I'll hit the play then. All right.
I'm reacting to what I heard and to some questions that I had about what happened in Washington with this controversy around Sheikh Shakir, who was not yet fired. I hope he's not going to be, but he was asked to stop preaching and to stop being active within the community or within the mosque in Washington. First, when the people are saying it's not in the Quran, yes, anything, there is nothing about this in the Quran, and anything which has to do with excision or circumcision, it's coming from the prophetic tradition. Now, no one can deny the fact that in the mainstream Islamic tradition, up to now in African countries or in the Islamic institutions, in Al-Azhar or in some of the institutions that we have, it's discussed because they are relying on the prophetic traditions where it's clearly mentioning the female excision. My position as a Muslim scholar, my position, it's wrong that we should not.
Okay, can you put that down smaller? Okay, everybody else, can you put that in a small form rather than removing it?
Yeah, let me get a screenshot of that. Thank you very much.
So please take a look at this statement and you tell me if I'm wrong. When I say it's wrong that we should not promote this, that means that's a double negative, which is a positive. So he's saying he endorses this practice. All right.
That's what I got from it.
Is that what you get? Anybody else see anything
sir.
different?
He's from Egypt, right? I think Tariq Ramadan is from Egypt too, right?
He is from Egypt, correct.
Right. And
Okay,
that's something that it's seen in Egypt.
Yeah.
It must
Hold
be.
on. Darcy. Yes, ma'am.
I believe he was in Sweden.
Could you put that?
I'm sorry.
Hold on, Darcy.
Could you put that? Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Please put that StreamYard link in the YouTube chat. There's somebody who wants to come on, I think.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll do.
It's posted at the top of the YouTube chat.
Is that my biggest issue here? Isa, you're somebody on the doctoral level.
Sure.
You can read this and you understand logic. Is this a double negative?
It looks like it. And I would say culturally it would make sense that might be a promoted position, because in Egypt that is something that's promoted. Not all places, like I don't know if this would be accepted in Pakistan, but it is accepted in Egypt and Sri Lanka too. I knew someone from Sri Lanka who was Muslim that this happened to. So yeah, this does happen.
Yeah. So my biggest issue here now, the guy he's talking about, I'm going to play that video next, but he's defending a man who was told to step down by people living in Washington, D.C. because of what he said about FGM. All right. I'm curious. I don't know if people in the mosque got upset, but I do know the locals got very upset in the Washington, D.C. area. Now, this man he's talking about was an Islamic leader in the Al-Hijra Mosque in D.C. They refer to it as Washington. So knowing that there is a state of Washington, which I don't know that Tariq Ramadan knows, I will not refer to it as Washington without the D.C. Let me play the rest of this. There's only a little bit left. And what I want to, after this one, I want to go right into this next video, because this will see them both together. These are, again, Islamic scholars. So he's chosen his words purposely to deceive you. Here we go.
Promote this because I think that first, it's not in the Quran, and second, it's part of the Sunan that we have, and it's something that is
wait. Before I go on, Eric, what's wrong with this picture? You pointed it out.
They're taking, just like I said, they're taking Muhammad over Allah.
No, there's something in the background Eric caught.
No, there's a picture in the background, a representation of a human being. So if this guy was a practicing Muslim, he wouldn't have a photograph of somebody or a painting of somebody or of a human being in his home.
Oh,
so we already know. We already know where he stands as far as the Sunnah is concerned.
This is a liberal progressive position.
In African.
Yeah.
countries among the Christians and the Muslims, and it's not religious. No one can say it's not part of our tradition. It's controversial, it's discussed, there is ikhtilaf among the scholars. Yes, you need to take a position, but you cannot deny the fact that this is something which is part of our tradition.
Okay, so let me, I'm gonna have to take that out and then I'll put the next one in. This is, when you see this stuff, sometimes I hate doing research, but I think it's incredibly important we know all the facts. And I love, sometimes I hate that I love research so much. I mean, but this is one of those cases where I think it's paying off. All right,
It makes me mad we got guys like this in our country.
Oh, he's not in our country. He's not allowed here. He's banned from coming to the United States. All right, so
good deal.
I think I have. Can you pull up the? It's not the video, Eric. It's the other one. Yeah, if you can grow that for just a second. Islamic tradition. This again from the Saline Muslim site. It says, I was captured with some girls from Byzantium. Caliph Uthman offered us Islam, but only myself and one other girl accepted Islam. Uthman said, go and circumcise them and purify them. And that's Adab al-Mufrad of Bukhari. Second one there. Akama says that when the nieces of Aisha's brother were circumcised, Aisha was asked, shall we call someone to amuse them? Yes, she replied. I mean, yeah. I mean, this
What are you going to be amused for after you've been circumcised?
You don't want to be
because you're in an entire your body is the pain. You're trying to take their mind off of the pain, for crying out loud.
Yeah, this is again these circumcised. This is. Yeah, let's go to the video. I think this will blow people.
Okay, we got about 10 minutes left in the show.
Okay.
So.
All right, we're almost done. We'll just play this straight through.
Okay.
A sunnah for the boys and the honorable thing to do if needed for the girls. And this is something that a Muslim gynecologist can tell you if you need to or not.
I'm going to take him out.
Oh, by the way, he resigned.
The Prophet ﷺ, there used to be a lady that used to do this for women, or I mean young girls. And
in Washington, D.C.
she is expected to only cut the tip of the sexual sensitive part in the girl so that she is not hyper-sexually active. This is the purpose. Of course, if that lady or that surgeon cut more than the tip, it causes serious harm in the sexual life of the child when she grows up. And this is why the West thinks of aqiqah as sexual mutilation, tashweeh.
Duh.
Because in many of the Muslim countries, ladies and men who are not qualified and do not have the training or the knowledge as to what exactly needs to be done, they cut more than needed, and they end up damaging the sexual sensuality of the woman when she becomes an adult and she becomes cool or cold in the sexual relationship. And this is haram. This is manhi anhu. This is prohibited.
Yeah,
okay?
Right. Liar.
You see, in societies where circumcision of girls is completely prohibited, hypersexuality takes over the entire society, and a woman is not satisfied with one person or two or three. This is, God forbid, is now happening even in Muslim societies where they prohibit circumcision. So the
Okay, notice his word. Paul, go ahead and pause it. I think that's enough.
I was just about to stop it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Notice he said that
they
one or
end
two or
up
three is not enough for a woman.
causing a
But
lot
how
of
many
damage.
how many women can a man
on
have?
the other extreme
I mean,
side
can we ask? Is it okay to ask that question? I mean, what a hypocrite is this guy? This is what is so disgusting about this whole thing is that
he needs to get out of my country
fail
quick.
to make an equitable application of the rights of the man and the woman. This is why when we start saying, well, Islam teaches the equal treatment of women, horse feathers. It does not. Who is this guy we got here, Mr. A. Bird? Are you the guy that was from the chat? Are you the one that was in a chat with the duo something? What was that?
Turn your microphone on, bro. We can't hear you. Turn your microphone on.
We can't hear you. Hold on.
It's a button on the bottom.
Turn your mic on, bro.
I don't see him muted.
No, it's
muted.
not working.
Can't hear you. Can't hear
Can't
you.
hear you, man.
Hold on.
He
Let
might
me
have
work
to go
on
out
it.
and back.
Okay.
All right,
Well, that's okay. So go ahead, Paul.
Okay, so we're nearing the end of this, and let me just go back over here and real quick. I don't think I've. All right, so if you could pull this up real quick, this is where the cultural piece is. This came from, believe it or not, USAID paid for this, and it's put out by Muslims within the country of the United States. Ibrahim Latham Asmani and Maryam Sheikh Abdi. Still makes me wonder
you mean Barack Obama paid for it?
Yes. So take a look at this. It says marriage is recommended act in Islam and regarded important sunnah of Prophet Muhammad, blah, blah, blah. Marriage is my sunnah. Whoever shuns the sunnah of mine, not enough people. It's on the bottom here. Go down. I mean, it mentions all the kinds of FTM. If the girl is not circumcised, however beautiful she is not wanted by men. He wants or prefers the stitched one, who he will be happily busy with through the night. Notice the end piece here. I will do whatever it will make them like my daughter. I'll stitch her up tight. Elderly men. This is the prophet with the child bride type story. That's the end that I have on this. So
bring this back up.
There is just my suggestion on the whole thing. This is enough reason for you to say, leave Islam, take a look at the Gospels of Christ. Find out if anything Muhammad was close to what talked about or his Allah talked about was right. He did say the Gospels were accurate. Go take a look at them. Go read them and then make a choice. And I would say, if I was to make it for you, I'd say choose Christ, because that to me is the only solution.
Amen. And who's gonna disagree with that, especially on this panel here? Okay, like I said, we're wrapping this up. I don't know if anybody has anything that they want to add to this. Let's just go around the horn here. Mr. Steve Hussein is he might be busy right now. I don't know if he's out there having. There you are. You got anything to add to this here, Steve? Okay. Do you have anything to add today that you want to?
You know the thing that about they're doing this to the woman in order to control her her lust and everything like that, so that she's not overcome with desire. That's the same excuse that they use. There's this thing, and I hear you hear it all the time. Well, not all the time, but I hear it, and that is that they blame you. Like for me, like when I'm sitting out at my table, they say you're causing a fitna. A fitna is like the to start like a civil war, and it's like whenever they say that, what that means is we can't control ourselves. You see, in our response to you, we can't control ourselves. And so we're going to hit you. When they say we're going to make a fitna, that means we're going to come after you and hit you because you're forcing us to, Right. And so it's the same type of thing. We can't control ourselves. So we got to somehow subjugate somebody else,
And they actually need protection from you for when you are exercising your fundamental rights, and not only as an American citizen, but as a human being, for crying out loud. This is freedom of conscience. This is freedom of expression. And to have them come at you like that, it just shows you how shallow their personal faith is.
Not only that, we were nice enough to allow your satanic religion to come into our country, and we allowed you to practice it. And this is how you thank us?
You know what?
Really?
Okay, Ed, you know what? Something about that. That's the beauty of this country, though. And I say that with all sincerity. When you are able to allow these other cultural practices, not FGM, but faiths, religious faiths, to come into your country and practice their faith freely without any type of repression, that shows you the strength of yours. Because you know, at the end of the day, when it comes down, if you can have an open and honest dialogue without being called an Islamophobe or a hater, bigot, or whatever, you don't need to bark, Ed. I mean, I am.
Sorry about that. But my point being is that, okay, you guys have barked loud enough for long enough. We're done with it. You see, and you're not going to believe the name of this dog. Her name is Allah. Believe it or not, her name is Allah. I named her Allah. She's a black dog. Her name is Allah. Yes, sir.
Okay, and, don't publicize that. You're going to get yourself in trouble.
Well, that's fine. Go ahead and block me, the internet.
I'm not going to block you. Okay, this Mr. Bird guy, Bird, we can hear you now. Imagine that. How are you? Now we can't hear you. I can't hear you. We just heard you say something, and now I can't hear you. I can't read your lips. No, we still can't. Did you do something to your computer, or did you?
Can you hear me now?
There we go. We can hear you.
Oh,
now.
Great. Thank you. Internal microphone. Let me try to remember that. That's the one it should be on. I apologize for that. And now I realize I'm only at the end of the show. So
you have 1 minute, 37 seconds. Plenty of time.
Yes. So let me first say hello from Germany. I was very surprised that you guys have this as a topic because, I mean, there are so many religions with so many absolute absurd practices. Why choose this as a topic? One would think that Christianity in the United States have enough problems of its own. So I'm wondering why the topic. It's weird for me.
So here's my question. I'll throw it back at you. This is called changing. This is, you're providing a fallacious argument. We're talking about a topic. You want to go off topic. We don't have time for that, is what I would say. We talked about. We tried to talk about one topic. I know, Eric. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. I do have an answer for that. And
okay.
Okay, so a lot of time this show is supposed to be a discussion group about religion between Islam and Christianity. We could talk all day long about politics. We could talk about economic situation and unfairness, or we could talk about how to win card games in Las Vegas, but we don't. We talk about religious topics here, and when we do talk about these religious topics, and when we point out things that are very controversial, like FGM. This is a very controversial topic because it affects the most innocent of girls. And the kind of thing that we've been running through this past month is the Islamic treatment of women, and how somebody needs to speak up and to protect them, because it sure heck isn't the imams or the men within the religion itself. They're being abused, and they're being abused not only here in the United States, but worldwide. Why? And the reason why is because of the Quran. It's because of the Sunnah, the Hadith that we have, and also because of this little green book right here, which is the Sharia. So when we start talking about the Sharia and how permissive the Sharia is, what we're doing here in essence is trying to publicize why it is necessary that people need. Because if we didn't speak out against it, who would? Would the Muslims speak out against FGM? No, of course not. So this is why we do it here. Go ahead.
Thank you for the answer.
Abert, are you Christian, or do you believe in God?
Me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, me? Yes, of course. I believe in the Lord Jesus. I also believe in taking the beam out of one's own eye first before trying to take the splinter out of someone else's eye. And
okay,
as I see it,
what would be the beam that's in our eye? Hold on, Ed.
Do you hold on? No. Well, I'm going to kind of enhance upon that. Do you believe that there's an Antichrist, and how would you explain the Antichrist to us?
Okay, it's a bit off
okay. That's
topic,
a different topic. That's way different topic. I just want to.
Well, actually, it's not. Actually, it's not, because that's what we've been discussing this whole.
I see where you're going with it, Ed. You're right. Okay, so you believe that Islam is part of the Antichrist system. Okay, I get that. But what I'm trying to figure out is what is the beam that you're talking about? And we don't have a lot of time, honestly. We don't, but that's okay.
So,
and you know what? We could actually have this discussion.
It's a good discussion, I think. And let me just make absolutely clear. I believe that the Lord Jesus is king, and that he is sovereign ruler, and that he is not really shaken too much by other religions or people who do not bow towards him. His kingdom is eternal. This is my belief. And so I think it is important for us who confess to the Lord Jesus and who confess him as king to make sure that we are on track. And this is something that he also said. Take the beam out of your own eye first before trying to remove the splinter out of your brother's eye. And so I'm not even here to say what the beam is. I'm just saying, look at us as Christians. My goodness, there's a lot that we can still fix in our own house before we try to go and fix what is happening.
I would agree with that
house.
to a large extent. When you start looking at some of the practices where children are abused by priests, when you I will agree with you.
Okay, is ISIS the best of Muslims? I'm asking you, Abert.
So for me, Islam is mistaken because they do not believe in the Lord Jesus as Lord. So I don't have to talk about them. All the small little things that they do wrong, I'm not interested in. They are wrong by definition. So why am I even having a conversation about it?
Can I?
Right.
So would you mind?
So you just proved my point for me. Thank you, sir.
So here's where I will disagree with you 100%. If you do not stand up, and if you're from Germany, what happens? They take away one group of people, okay? Then they come and they take away another group of people. And then it comes down to you're the last one there, and they take away you. So if you don't stand up for children, who will? My biggest issue here is if in the United States, nobody knew anything about Islam. Same thing about, in Germany. All right, now you're forced. I was in Berlin in 2016, and I was shocked at what I saw there. I was on a fact-finding expedition on the Islamization of Europe. Okay, I was there. I was in France. I was in Germany, and I was in Sweden. All right, we spent some good time there talking with professionals, intelligence officers, your security divisions. We had journalists, politicians, and a whole bunch of people. When you ignore a problem, that doesn't make it go away. And I think you would agree with that. But if you're choosing to say, we got to talk about something else because this is scary, I have a problem.
Yes. Also, I didn't say because it is scary. I said because we have bigger problems than that.
Okay, but then if we did that, hold on. If we did that, then we would never get around. If we tried to make ourselves perfect and solve all of our problems, we would never get around to even addressing even these larger problems that affect more people globally, like FGM. something that is so patently and obviously, and almost, you could almost, I would say that if you remove the religious affiliation with it in Islam, everybody would say universally that it is a barbaric act. Something
and it's
cruel.
being practiced in Germany as well.
And I did say that this practice, FGM, is not solely by, it predates Islam as well.
It's been around for a long time.
When you actually go to Islamic sites, they actually try to claim that this was done in Judaism. It's not. They try to claim it was done by Christians. It was not. And when you go to Islamic sites, so talk about taking the mote out of the eye, it's not there on this topic. Okay, that this topic of FGM, it does not exist in Christianity. It does not exist in Judaism. So we're talking about a mote that's not in our eye. It was never needed to be taken out of our eye. And that is the topic for today. So thank you.
Let's do this. I tell you what.
Could I say one quick thing? I want to
hold on. Hold on. That's fine, Nathan. Give me just a second. Okay. So we can continue this conversation. I just don't have time to do it right now. What I've done is I put my email address in chat. Do you see that? Do you see my email address in the chat there? ericthekefer@gmail.com.
Yep.
He looks like he's looking. Okay. If we can continue this conversation next Sunday, if you would like.
Don't call
yourself
a kafir. You are not a kafir. This is.
Well, that's what Muslims call me. I would agree. I'm not. I would agree, but that's what they call me. Isa, go ahead.
Oh, I want to say one last thing. I want to address Mr. Abird. I think the issue with this whole situation is whoever does it, we need to call it out. I think that is the thing that is pulling at the might, is that whoever's doing it, if it's the Islamic community, it needs to be called out. If it's the Christian community, it's going to be called out. Maybe some Christians are practicing it, but I think the argument here is that there is a certain amount of Muslims who are practicing this, and it needs to be challenged and it needs to be questioned. And I think it needs to be condemned, personally. I think it's an evil practice, and I don't really care. Like, it's like telling me, if a book told me, it's like if I was living in the Aztec world and they told me to do a baby sacrifice, I'm not going to do it because it's wrong. You know what I mean? For me, it's wrong. In my heart, I know it's wrong. I don't care if other people say it's right.
That's a universal. I mean, come on, Issa, that's not just something for you or any other. I mean, separate from cultures. It's wrong universally to do that to another human being. And that's the point of what we're saying, as far as, this should be something that it would be widely accepted across the globe.
I think progressive Muslims that is just out. Yeah,
what's that?
I think the liberal element in the Islamic community who's against this needs to be vocally saying this is incorrect, this is wrong, we will not practice this. I think that has to be. What
we see happening though is we're ashamed. People are trying to shame us. People are trying to shame us into silence and to not talk about this. And
but in USA, is it legal? Is it legal to do this? It's not legal in Germany. And in Germany, they also wanted to outlaw the male circumcision.
Before I quiet, it is and is not legal. Here's why it is not legal. First of all, it violates the Hippocratic Oath. Okay, we had people arrested in the United States after a law was created for carrying out this practice, and what happened as a result of certain changes in politicians, they were afraid to prosecute. So because they didn't prosecute, this is now being engaged throughout the country through mosques, not by doctors. A doctor who engaged in this practice could lose his ability to practice medicine. A nurse who engaged in this practice could lose their ability to practice. But that's what I'm saying, that it is happening. We have documentation of it happening. I showed a video that actually declared that was happening in Washington, D.C., of all places. I have documentation of it happening in Texas as well. So it's happening in Germany. We know that it's happening all around the world, wherever the followers of Islam are currently, and other cultures.
There's a lot of things that are illegal in the United States that people still do, and there's a lot of things that are illegal in Germany that people still do. So, whether legality or not, I agree to an extent that that needs to be addressed. But it's wrong whether it's illegal or not. Okay. Did you have my email address? If you want to come on next week, go ahead and shoot me an email, and we'll pick a topic. Be with Islam or Christianity. It's up to you. If not, we will see you guys on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Make sure that's Central Standard Time, not Eastern Standard Time. Nobody cares about them people out in the East. Oh, wait a second, Paul. I'm sorry. Make sure you don't confuse it with Eastern Standard Time. It's Central Standard Time, Chicago time, and we'll have I don't know. We'll have a topic for Tuesday. I'll have to think on that tonight. Don't get too much of the Super Bowl. Avoid the halftime show. It's normally satanic in nature, but some songs are pretty good. I have to give them that. So God bless everybody. We will see you on Tuesday, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time here on the Cross and Crescent discussion group. And with that, I'm ending the broadcast.
God bless all.
Right. God bless you guys.